Hill on Rod Rosenstein to do things that really compromise the department's, core interests, that compromise the independence of the department's investigations. I think one of the things they're trying to do is, look, they know that he can't end this investigation. He can't take some radical step and fire Mueller, shut this investigation down. But he's going to have to approve close calls. He's going to have to approve calls like, does he let Mueller subpoena the president if he wants to? And they're just trying to push him hard enough that when it comes to those close calls, he sides with the president and not with the special counsel.
Joyce, a source told me that the pressure they're really trying to apply is on timing, that they're really trying to get Bob Mueller to wrap this up by September 1st with or without an interview. I'm told without one.
They'd like to see this wrap up, and what they have on their side, quite frankly, is DOJ's historical lack of willingness to take steps too close to an election. The view in public corruption cases is that you need to go into a real quiet mode as you get within some unspecified period of time, 30, 60 days of an election, so that you're not influencing the outcome based on an investigation that hasn't yet decided whether anyone will be indicted. I really don't think Mueller is going to be concerned with what their timing goal is here. I don't think he'll take it into consideration. I don't think that it will play here. They can want that just like they can want the president to not be investigated, but that's not where Mueller's headed with this, much like Frank talked about in the first segment.
So, Frank, one of the people we've been talking about, Rod Rosenstein, he's very much thrown under the bus in this memo. They go back to putting the Comey firing on Rod Rosenstein, which we know from video that we air all the time of the president telling Lester Holt, no, I was going to fire him all along because I didn't like the way the Russia investigation is going. We know from what the president said to Russian officials in the Oval Office, I'm so happy that the pressure's off of me. It was relieved by firing Comey. But they go back to blaming Rosenstein for the Comey firing in the memo. Is that likely to be viewed by Robert Mueller's investigators as a credible defense?
Unfortunately, Rod Rosenstein finds himself now in the thick of this, and that's the worst place for any prosecutor to actually become a possible fact witness. And I think that Mueller is going to have to interview Rosenstein if that hasn't happened already. And this creates the whole taint of a possible conflict and a possible call for recusal of Rosenstein, which I predict is the next thing we're going to hear from the White House.
Let me press you on that. What happens if Rod Rosenstein has to be recused from this?
Well, we know that he's overseeing the special counsel investigation because the Attorney General himself is recused. So now we have the possibility of an insertion of a new Deputy Attorney General.
Or who would it be?
It literally does not have to be anyone in the line of succession. It could theoretically be someone that the president places there himself.
Oh, what a scary thought. All right, Matt Apuzzo and Matt Miller, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. See, when we book you, it's never for 5 minutes. You get stuck for half an hour, but we appreciate you. When we come back, the real impeachment strategy, it doesn't necessarily involve avoiding impeachment at all. Two sources close to the president have told me the real impeachment strategy isn't to avoid being impeached in the House, it's to avoid conviction in the Senate. These sources pointed to the fact that the president loves a good fight, that the Democrats may regain control of the House, and that Bill Clinton's approval ratings were in the 60s when he was impeached. To that end, the New York Times reports, quote, Trump's lawyers have also begun a public relations campaign to discredit the investigation and in part to preempt a potentially damaging special counsel report that could prompt impeachment proceedings. It looks like their strategy may be working. More Republican members of Congress are coming forward, repeating the president's defense and therefore making impeachment charges less of a worry, like House Majority Leader.
Mr. Leader, are you bothered by the fact that the White House lied about the president's involvement here?
Look, the one thing I have found, this has gone on for more than a year. Millions of dollars has been spent. The White House has been cooperating all the way through. This was all based upon, was there collusion involved in the election? Everyone has looked at this as there's no collusion going forward.
Mr. Leader, Trump has a unique power over his party, and Phil Rucker of the Washington Post describes how he's been able to rally their support. Writing, quote, in Trump's telling, which can often be more imaginary than real, he's a victim, a long-suffering, tormented victim. For Trump, this posture makes and preserves political power. He has created around himself an aura of unfair persecution by the nation's elites, Democrats, the media, and law enforcement that inspires sympathy from and solidarity with his aggrieved supporters. Let's bring in the rest of our panel. Joining Frank and me at the table, Elise Jordan, former aide in the George W. Bush White House and State Department, David Jolly, a former Republican congressman, and Jason Johnson, politics editor for The Root. All are MSNBC analysts and contributors. Joyce is still with us as well. Let me start with you on, I don't know what other word to use it, just the lameness of the Republicans.
So I was one of the lone Republican holdouts to vote for Kevin McCarthy, and I never did. And when I ended up voting against him, I said to a colleague of yours on a different station, I said, you know, this probably makes him the next Speaker of the House when the vacancy opens up. But the reality is what he did yesterday shows that he is not a loyalist to the Constitution. He's a loyalist to Donald Trump. Look, what we have seen this week, and it's Monday, is a White House prepared for the courtroom, a White House with allegiances on Capitol Hill that realize they're about to get into this in a very heavy way. And what we saw from Kevin McCarthy was not an allegiance to the Article I authorities that he may be acceding to.